In this episode, we are going to pose two questions. Number one, why did electric cars become less attractive? And two, what will make electric cars inevitable again and by when? My first guest is Amitabh Saran, the founder and CEO of Altigreen Propulsion Labs. Saran used to work at companies like Tata Consultancy Services, Philips, NASA, and Hewlett Packard before turning into entrepreneurship. Now, my second guest is Avdesh Jha, who's the executive director of Glida India, which formerly used to be called Photon, which is a leading charging solution provider in India. In fact, if you live in Delhi, you walk around, you will see Glida charging points all over Delhi. And this is the place. It's these green color charging points where all of these electric cars are connected in order to charge themselves. Avdesh has a long history in power. He used to be a deputy director at the Central Water Commission in Gujarat. He used to be the vice president at the Hindustan Power Projects Limited, where he administered the hydropower development in one of the remotest parts of the country, which is in the Spiti district at Himachal Pradesh.
To answer your question, are EVs in passenger vehicles inevitable? Yes, they are. Has to happen. Now, whether it happens in 2 years, 5 years,
Sorry, why? I'm questioning that.
Yeah.
Why do we still believe that they are
Okay.
inevitable?
Okay. EVs are a lot more efficient compared to a fossil fuel vehicle. You know that
Okay.
fossil fuel runs at 22% efficiency, this runs at 90% efficiency. For the same use of energy, if you go from place A to place B, a mass that needs to move, physics, this is the amount of energy it requires. The best use of that energy is through electrification, without any doubt. Right? So that's number one. EVs are very simple vehicles. They're 5 boxes, that's all. You can create all kinds of versions, and people look at China. People are looking at variants for every little use case they have. So if I am this kind of a guy who drives 30 kilometers, I will need a different kind of vehicle. If I'm driving 65 kilometers, a different 120 kilometers are different. So everyone, you're able to customize it and offer it to the needs of the end customer, not like a one size fits all to say, well, yeah, you want it, take it. Otherwise, too bad. Figure out what you want to do. So in terms of efficiency, in terms of simplicity, plus if you look at it, fossil fuel prices are only going to go up. It's a limited commodity, it's only going to go up. In the case of electricity, is it only going to come down because of renewable sources of energy? So as we tap more and more, this entire supply is going to increase. Because it increases, it's going to come down. Even lithium, now new batteries chemistries are coming in, right? Sodium, aluminum. They are abundantly available in our country, across the world, and hence the price of these batteries are going to come down. If you remove that, you'll very quickly you will find. I mean, PLI scheme in India, we're jumping the gun, but PLI scheme in India, new cells are going to be manufactured in India by the end of 2025, early 26. Rest assured, cell prices are going to come down, and that used to be 40% of the price of an electric car. That is going to come down dramatically.
So perhaps that's one of the things that's holding consumers back counterintuitively, right? Because when you know that so much of the disruption is about to happen, you don't want to really be the person who's putting up their money and bear the cost of that disruption in 1 year or 2 year when prices have gone down further, batteries are much cheaper, etc., or much better technology out there.
It's like
So-
the people buying smartphones in 2001.
Correct.
Or 2000,
This will always happen. So there will be early adopters. कर लो यार जो करना है. They will buy. नहीं मैं तो
Okay.
वही खरीदूंगा.
Okay. Since you spoke about charging, I know that Avdesh is itching to jump in. All right. Especially because Avdesh, we said he's the executive director of Glida. And if I'm not wrong, Glida's mission statement and Glida's purpose is that we want to make charging as easy as Avdesh.
ABC.
Go ahead, please. And tell us about charging and why is charging so hard? And can the narrative, is that the reason why people are not buying electric vehicles?
Okay, so clearly perception of having lack of charging infrastructure is clearly one of the narratives which is being
No, but you have to tell us about the ABC first.
Yeah. So ABC means that the charging is nothing but how you plug your refrigerator at your home, how you switch on your AC. So that's the charging. So that's why I say that it's ABC.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the lack of charging infrastructure, I'm saying that that's where the narrative is being built. And particularly in our country, what is happening, the problem is that we have a clear different segments of the vehicles, two-wheelers, three-wheelers, four-wheelers. segments is entirely different, and the huge mass of that segment. Unfortunately, we borrow the terms from the Western world, where dominant segment is the car. So when in Europe we call EV, it means car. In India, we call EV means two wheelers, three wheelers, four wheelers. And the charging need for both all the segments is entirely different. Two wheeler doesn't require a 60 kilowatt power or 200 kilowatt power, right? But when it comes to the lack of charging infrastructure, people say that no, we have only one charging points against 135 vehicles in India compared to 1 in 20 in Norway or other developed countries. And that's where the problem comes of the narratives. Because you have to compare apple to apple. In Europe, if I take an example of 1 is to 20, that's for the car. In India, if you say the car, we have a total gross stock of close to around 500,000. This I'm talking of total electric car right from the 1990, which Amitabh had referred to.
So these are like the number of cars that are on the road right now or totally sold?
Totally sold, I would say.
Totally sold. Okay, please continue.
Out of that, roughly around 300,000 cars would be such which has been sold in last 2.5 years or 3 years.
Okay.
Now, these 300,000 cars would require charging in the public places or the home, right? They have a capability of charging at a faster pace.
Sure.
So now, against that 300,000 cars, in India, currently in the public charging for the car, we have roughly around 10,000 to 12,000 charging points. So if you have 10,000, 12,000 charging points against 300,000 cars, it means you have already 1 is to 25 or 20 ratio, which is as good as the European countries' ratio. So in terms of numbers, we don't have lesser, right? Second, when the people say that no, the charging infrastructure is the major concern, and this I'm talking about globally, that's where again, these are the narratives which is being played by the vested interest parties, right? Why I say so? Because at the one point you say that
Is this
80%
the
charging
ICE
happens at
industry?
home, right? 80% charging happens at home. When 80% charging happens at home, you drive 30 kilometer, 40 kilometer a day. How can you put public charging infrastructure as a culprit, as a villain? This goes with the Indian OEMs also. I'm making a controversial statement here. The Indian OEMs, right? I'm spacing it up slightly further.
Sure.
So Indian OEMs are always saying that, oh, public charging is missing, that's why we are not able to sell the car. At the same time, you are cannibalizing the public charging by selling your own chargers at home. So once you are giving a consumer a charger at home, and then you expect a private CPOs to set up the public charging, who nobody will come that public charging, then how would they be profitable? So the point I'm saying is that lack of public charging infrastructure is definitely one of the reasons, but at this stage in India, it is not so. It is not so. It is more a question of narrative that how it is being built, how it is being played out.
It's a new year and we are going to try something new. So one of the things I want to do is to get you involved into future 2x2 episodes. It's fun for Rohin and me to have discussions with guests, and I'm guessing it's fun for you to listen to them too. But I really want to add more flavor, color, and spice to these discussions, and I want these to come from you, subscribers and listeners of 2x2, and I want you to share anecdotes, stories, and examples. And we're going to kick that off today by asking you a specific, simple question. Have you chosen to attend live events by traveling to countries outside India, even when those same events were available to you in India? I'll explain. Just last week, in the Nutgraph, which is my newsletter that I publish on Saturdays, I wrote about my experience of traveling to Melbourne to watch the Boxing Day Test match and why I had stopped watching cricket matches in stadiums in India. Now, that edition got a lot of attention, especially from fellow cricket stadium watchers. Now, maybe you don't care about Test cricket like I do, but I want to know what you care about. I'm talking about stuff like attending maybe concerts, stand-up comedy, live music, sports matches, stuff like that. Did you skip the local Indian option and simply choose to go abroad? And if you did that, why? Tell us. Just click on the link below in the show notes. It's pretty straightforward. There are just 3 questions, and I don't think it'll take you more than 2 or 3 minutes to answer. I may invite you on the show to talk about it with other subscribers or with guests in a future episode.
This was just 10 minutes from our conversation. Of course, there's a lot more that we got into the discussion. If you'd like to listen to the full episode, you can head over right now to the Ken and become a premium subscriber to catch up on everything else that we've discussed. Your premium subscription will also get you access to all of our long form stories, newsletters, visual stories, and all the other podcasts that we produce. Or if you want to just sample full episodes of 2x2, you can do that by becoming a premium subscriber on Apple Podcasts at a really great monthly price. Lastly, if you enjoyed listening to this episode, let us know by rating the podcast on your favorite podcast streaming platform. Thank you for listening, and we'll be back next week with another exciting episode.